TSM have announced that they will be coming back to CSGO, and people have been rejoicing about this, because it doesn't matter how abusive you are to esports fans. If you're an organization, you just get away with it every time. If you're a popular player, you get away with it every time. It's only journalists and broadcast talent that are ever held accountable. Spoiler, by the way, isn't it amazing that Config can get into a fist fight of his own design, one that he provoked, not his first time provoking fights at events. And by the way, you'll notice he's never going to call me out about this, because I know things, because I know everything that goes on behind the scenes. And in fact, he's just going to be very, very quiet about it. But I'll just tell you, he's got previous. Isn't it cool, by the way, that a player can get into a fight, lose, wreck his own leg in a completely avoidable situation, and everyone goes, oh, get well soon. And then the truth comes out, and people still say, get well soon? I like Config. I hope he doesn't get dropped over this. We all make mistakes. Me, on the other hand, balding Dota player who doesn't understand basic humour, attempts to beat me up while I'm working an event to defend the honour of his girlfriend, long besmirched. And I defend myself, and I'm a pariah, and it's the most lied about thing of all time in 7 years. Should have broke my leg, should have let Loader break my leg, and everything would be alright. You're a bunch of fucking hypocrites, you morons. I despise you. I'm the only person that's ever acted in self-defense and has been treated like I committed a heinous crime in the history of the world, it seems. So anyway, unrelated, sorry. Bitter Ramblings, a new series with Richard Lewis. Anyway, so TSM are back. There's a lot to unpack here, because TSM obviously quit 6 years ago. They've been out of CSGO. It wasn't even so much because obviously Valorant didn't exist 6 years ago. They just didn't see the value in CSGO, you know, when they got rid of their team, despite having obviously the core that would go on to become Astralis and become the greatest team of all time. In an alternate timeline where Reginald isn't a fucking brain-dead moron, TSM has that Astralis team and they win everything, and TSM has their CSGO team even eclipses their League of Legends team, and everyone thinks Reginald's a genius. But no, that's unfortunately not what happens, because Reginald had a very petty and pathetic dispute, which we'll talk about somewhere down the road. But something else happened recently that I believe has had an impact and precipitated this glorious return. First off, as I said in multiple opinion pieces at the time, multiple times on By the Numbers when I used to do that podcast, multiple times in general, probably on Twitter, there's always a tweet, right? All the people that when the going got tough, North American org owners basically, when the going got tough and they couldn't build successful teams, they would go on their soapboxes and stand up and say, it's just unfair. We invest all this money and then we don't win anything and we just lose money. And without a franchise league, what's the point? Meanwhile, over in Europe, everyone's just like, yeah, you roll the dice. You build a successful team or you don't. And you keep trying. I mean, I saw an organisation, won't mean a lot to a lot of you. Lowland Lions just went out of business. For good this time, although someone will probably acquire that brand in like 2 years in some sort of fucked up crypto Ponzi scheme. But whatever. For now, it's sad, isn't it? And Lowland Lions were an organisation that, which I know not a lot of you will have heard of, if you're new. They launched a lot of good talent, particularly in the Benelux scene. I think they were the second organisation. Kadsking played for. Chris J played there. Obviously, Chris J's the Dutch player. And they've got out of business. And they plugged away for years. Years and years and years. And like, sort of, you know, to a lesser extent than Copenhagen Wolves, for example, they were just one of those orgs that they had a lot of good players, but they always had to sell. They never had the right team in the right place at the right time. And that's just what European team owners do in esports, you know? Unless you get, like, not lucky, but unless you're really good and everything aligns. You know, like Fnatic taking the LGB guys and adding them to the team they already had to create, you know, super dominant team in 2015. Or, you know, NIP just finding the right blend, you know, committing to CSGO and finding the right blend of 1.6 and Source players so they could dominate very games games right at the start. All of these things. It's about intelligence and foresight and knowing the business and sometimes a little bit of luck. North American all-owners don't want to play any of that shit. They just want to be like, right, we want this player. What do you want for money? As much as possible, please. 50 grand a month? Is that the opening bid? Yeah? I humbly accept. And then suddenly you've got fucking Cutler on 50 grand a month and just dumb shit like this. Spoiler, that's an example. He was never really on 50 grand a month. But that's literally like any negotiations. They pick up players based on social media presence, social media followers. That's why TSM's called Team Social Media. They're a fucking meme. They're a terribly run organization and focus on all the wrong things. And you just end up with a bunch of, bums, essentially, on unbelievable salaries that get ridiculous egos and they're more interested in how do I get out of the competitive scene, get into a fucking super popular stream, milk that for a couple of years, and then, essentially retire as a millionaire. That's what they're more interested about. And, NA orgs just don't want to do any of that. So when they all left, when they all went off to pastures new, I said, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Who gives a fuck? Who even gives a fuck if we don't have a North American scene in CSGO? Real talk. You lose that marketing budget, do you? Maybe. I don't know. Whatever. That doesn't affect me. That doesn't affect you as a fan. Doesn't affect a lot of the organizations in Europe. Just who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? What do they really add, Think of all those dog shit American teams. Think of Evil Geniuses, one of the, ones that have stayed in. And just how pathetic their contribution has been to the last 4 ESL Pro Leagues. Who cares? I go on that subreddit and I see EG Flair and I'm like, what are you doing? What? Basically, is this like what you do in your spare time when there's not a dominatrix to step on your balls? Because being an EG fan is just a waste of time. There's no good can come of it. It's just painful. So I don't understand it. The point is, North American org owners, they all fucked off. They were all like, oh, we're all in this game. CSGO can't be monetized successfully. We're going to go and do this. We're going to go to Valorant, obviously much later. We're going to get into all these games. And it's like, the bottom line is, as soon as they crap out in those games because their attitude doesn't change, some of these orgs as well, oh, the Overwatch League is a good investment, but CSGO, you can't monetize that. They'll piss 20 mil up against the fucking wall just to be in Activision Blizzard's good graces. But then they'll complain about how expensive it is to run a CSGO team with no success. Idiots. We were better off without those people. And so here they come now, right? Because what's happened? Well, here we go. In a big shock, it turns out that they didn't get into the Valorant franchising league. And the Valorant franchising league was decided. I'm calling it a franchise league. Everyone calls it a franchise league. It's not. It's a partnered league. It's not a franchise. You don't own the slot. You see, the difference between the Overwatch League is you own the slot. Not that that really means anything in Activision Blizzard's eyes. You own the slot. Completely worthless. You own it, though. But if you sell it, you've got to give 25% back immediately to Activision Blizzard. And they control the brand. So, you do, whatever it was, London Spitfire, right? Activision Blizzard own that. And they can make anyone the London Spitfire. But you can sell it to new owners if Activision Blizzard approve. They get 25% off the top. You get to keep whatever money you get back. You've lost a fuck ton of money. It was all a big waste of time. And everyone just cries at night. In the Valorant League, they were just picking partnered teams. And they made a bunch of interesting decisions. Obviously, Tategate meant that Carlos G2, they didn't get in. They were pre-approved. I know this. It was a real tough time, all of that Tategate stuff. Because obviously, listen, full disclosure, I'm friends with Carlos. I like Carlos. I wish he hadn't done what he did. I wish he had been a bit more diplomatic and tactful in how he handled the fallout. But Carlos is Carlos. He's a very single-minded guy. And sometimes that leads you to places where even your friends are like, I wish you hadn't gone there, mate. But, in sort of a three-dimensional world where people are people, one thing you disagree with, one problematic act, doesn't eradicate all of the good, doesn't suddenly render someone a bad person. Only Twitter thinks that way. Real people don't. and the real world doesn't, no matter how much Twitter sort of postures as being the collective consciousness of the world. No, it sort of is like that, but not really. Not in the real world. The repercussions of Twitter are very limited, provided you don't require Twitter to have a job. So anyway, I wish you hadn't have done that. But G2 got and Cloud9 got the slot. But what was interesting was, even going in, TSM were not going to be approved. I heard this from some sources back around the Call of Duty finals, actually, when I was in New York. And people were saying there's like weird fucked up rumblings about TSM not getting a slot. And, we were just shooting the shit over drinks. So it's like, it's not really a report, I'm not a games journalist. I'm not going to run with that. Yeah, but there was rumblings back then, and it was all predicated on the fact that Reginald was such sort of a supreme cunt with all of this bullying his staff, surviving 2 investigations, being warned about not being directly involved. And there was even a rumor going around that, like, in LCS, like, he's not allowed into the building or anything temporarily while he's on this, like, probationary period. I don't know. It's Riot. They're weird. They've had beef with Reginald for a long time. Some of it unjustified, honestly. Some of it justified, But there was rumors that they just didn't want to work with him. And as long as he was going to be directly involved with TSM and potentially involved with recruitment, they just didn't want to deal with it. And obviously all of the stuff, the story I did earlier in the year with their coach, Peter Zhang, and the money and how badly that was run and how there was some sort of quid pro quo going on with the recruitment, and the management had just given him all this autonomy, which he completely abused. It was all a bad look, and basically it put TSM on the outs with Riot, and there was no amount of popularity that was going to make them a desirable partner. Keep in mind, we've also had the rise of the Brazilian scene in Valorant, which I called right at the start. If you knew anything about the trends that were going on in Brazil, in the absence of a sort of CSGO beacon in Brazil, a team everyone could get behind, a successful team, more and more of the kids, more and more of the younger generation was starting to play Valorant. This was getting popular in like LAN cafes and stuff like that. More and more people were playing it, and that's generally a good indication when the game's going to blow up in popularity. It did, and now that they've just crowned their first world champion, Valorant's going to snowball exponentially. Like, basically, you're better off with a Brazilian, if it was a choice between a Brazilian team or TSM in the league, probably long term, the players actually take the Brazilian team, common sense. So basically that was what was going on, and they came out and they did this statement. It was really interesting, because if you read between the lines, you know what's going on. And look, someone's even done big eyes. It's always, fucking hell, big eye. The emojis, the zoomers. Here we go. First of all, this is the COO, Walter. This is on the day that they were denied entry into the Partnership League. Extremely disappointed today is the team putting so much effort, not only in the application, but in supporting Valorant since the launch of the game. A lot of deserving teams were left out, and I'm sorry to all our fans. Congrats to the selected teams. And then we can listen to this.
Hey everyone, it's Dominic. As many of you saw this morning, Riot announced their partner teams for the 2023 America's Partnership Program, and unfortunately, TSM was not one of those teams that was listed. We're really disappointed, but we really want to say thank you to the whole TSM family for all of your support over the last 3 years. To our players, to our support staff, to everyone that was working behind the scenes, of course to our partners and to our fans. We wouldn't have been able to get here without you. I just want you guys to know that we gave 110% throughout this application process. We've been invested in Valorant since the very beginning, whether that's through our community, our content, or our players. Just so we're clear, TSM isn't leaving Valorant. We'll continue to field a competitive Valorant roster and provide competitive player salaries. TSM has been a partner with Riot since 2013 and is one of the few profitable esports orgs, so it doesn't make sense for us to get up and leave the scene tomorrow. Again, thank you to our partners, our players, and of course our fans. Congratulations to the teams that were selected, and we wish you the best of luck going forward.
And then, underneath that, we've been building a whole new leadership team, and there will be a new era for TSM update soon. Now listen, I might be reading into things. I have a tendency to do that. I'm a subtext monster, aren't I? Media student. You've heard my movie reviews. Never even really talk about the story, do I? Talk about what it means, ooh, right? But I like reading between the lines, because very often between the lines is where the truth actually is. You find this out. You live a little bit in life. You're a journalist. You're a media student. It's always between the lines. It's never the lines. It's between the lines. That, to me, the key word there is leadership. And leadership, obviously, would, in this case, be Reginald and all the executive body. And I think that's essentially a signal to say we are going to craft a new structure around the Valorant team. That basically means, we're going to have a GM, we're going to have a coach and an analyst, all of that stuff that you have with the team, but we're going to have like a GM and somebody else, and somebody that handles recruitment and the contract. And it's going to be like a little, its own little thing. Because obviously, if you're creating a whole new leadership team, and it's not that TSM have been unsuccessful in Valorant, they just haven't been as successful as an org of that size should be. They've been a little bit disappointing in some areas. They've got some talented players, I would say. They've also had some, issues with leadership, and they tried to address that. And they were in at one point, but, they're kind of nowhere at the moment, really, in the grand scheme of things. Certainly on merit in terms of results. Yeah, you can take or leave them. But that to me suggests that the problem was something to do with the leadership, something to do with the management. They're not going to be included on that basis, and they are signaling to Riot, we're going to fix that. Now, they've got a year to fix it, apparently. What's going to happen is, for those that don't know the structure of Valorant, if you're interested, it's still not fully, coordinated in terms of schedule or anything. But you've got this partnered league, and then you've got what they're calling the Ascension League. And basically, teams that compete in that, there's going to be events for them. There's going to be a way that they can get into the league. Obviously, I don't think the partner teams are going to have a relegation thing. So they're going to be like expansion teams that get graciously airlifted in. How many of that's going to be? They haven't fully clarified, Riot, what those opportunities are going to look like to get in there with the big boys. But there is going to be a way to do it. And so TSM are banking on getting into that. And they're going to roll the dice for a year. Some orgs are, some orgs aren't. I think I've seen a few of the other big NA orgs that are like, listen, we'll take the Ascension stuff on the chin. But, if you want to learn more about that, you can go watch my last episode of the Richard Lewis Show with Ye from Optic, or the rumored to be joining Cloud9 now. He talks a little bit about how that's structured and how he had offers to go to teams in the Ascension League and stuff like that. Anyway, they are not going to be a major player in Valorant. And then suddenly we get to today, like about 2 weeks down the road, not even. And, hey guys, we're going to be coming back to CSGO. Let's just play this.
And for the final update, CSGO. Yes, TSM will be returning to CSGO here in 2023. I think it's important to note that we're not going to go out and just buy a top 5 team.
Just
I
as
happen
well.
to be a dual citizen with Germany, and we'll be spending a significant amount of time in Europe looking and working with a local GM to help build a roster and infrastructure necessary for this team to succeed. We've already started discussions with ESL and Blast about how TSM CSGO can be successful within Europe through long-term partnerships. We have a lot of work to do, and we have a lot of infrastructure to put in place. So please stay tuned as we have more updates as our teams and rosters start to come together sometime here in 2023. We will continue to provide updates and be as transparent as possible. But again, thank you for all your support. We wouldn't be here without you.
So, TSM, weird framing, because it's like, yes, we're coming back to CSGO, as we're about to get into. How anyone can have any fond memories of their time in CSGO is kind of beyond me. They didn't care about it. They mistreated one of the greatest cores of all time. And the coach and manager that was so instrumental to their success, the guy who literally built Astralis pre-Nicola Nyholm, they fired him. So, why anybody would be like, and we're going to go over that a little bit, but why anybody would be like, oh, TSM are back, yay! Like, no, fuck off, stay gone. Like, eat shit. Like, interesting kind of framing there. Because he went, oh, hey, I'm a dual citizen with Germany. Like, sound? What is that? Cool? Like, what does that do practically in terms of, Germany, that hotbed of CS talent? Fantastic. And he said he's going to be working with like a local GM to find we're not going to buy a top 5 team. So that was the first thing they said. We're not going to buy a top 5 team. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, shit, a top 5, you missed that opportunity. Cloud9 were probably the last org that was sort of able to buy a top 5 team on the cheap by essentially exploiting the situation between Ukraine and Russia to pick up a Russian team, with a Norwegian agent group acting as a proxy for it, and we all just pretended that's fine because it's CSGO and no one really cares about the principles. If it's not blowing up on Twitter or Reddit, is it even happening? But TSM, yes, you're definitely not buying a top 5 CSGO team. No one would part with a top 5 CSGO team, and for a North American region, I'm not even sure what that investment would be. So But what they're saying there is, with the key phrases of, I'm a dual citizen with Germany and we will work with a local GM, that means they're going to be looking in Europe and maybe close to ESL. And CSGO Leaks, the satire account, they picked up on this in their intelligent ways. And they even did a story just moments ago. Breaking, TSM Reginald ready to suck, fucking swallow his way into ESL's Louvre agreement. Their words, not mine. So I think basically they're looking to maybe get involved with ESL. Don't know how that'll go over, although ESL certainly have a preference for big orgs and are willing to sacrifice all principles and all olive branches extended to smaller orgs to accommodate the haves rather than help elevate the have-nots. They got a track record of that. So it's entirely possible. But I don't know what the current TSM team, if they're going to Europe to build one, I don't know what it would look like, and certainly it's not going to be of the caliber, like it wouldn't deserve to walk straight into the Louvre agreement or to ESL Pro League. I don't know who it would replace or what it would do, but they're coming back. My read on it is they're probably going to pick up like a pretty subpar team. Like, I'm looking at what's available, what's out there. I don't know. There's not a lot, really. Like, if you look at the top 30, I've said this multiple times, but if you go look at the top 30 now, it's a pretty weak top 30. So I don't know, and assuming it would be European based on what they've said, I don't think there's a lot of talent out there. You can maybe build up something from free agents. Maybe they would do like a European TSM approach where they go out and they get like Kenny S, because he's super popular. He's not great, and you get Shocks, and you know he's not good, and he's washed up, but you know, hey, he's super popular and it'll get a lot of eyeballs. Maybe they do something like that. There's been a lot of talk actually about some sort of French last dance happening. Who knows? Who knows what it would look like? But that would be sort of the TSM approach. But when he says we're working with the local GM and the Germany focus, kind of implies to me that they're going to maybe go Danish or German, and they're going to look around to mainland Europe maybe. Who knows? Whatever the fuck. All speculation at this point. Anyway, why would people be happy about TSM coming back? I said this earlier. I just want to remind you guys about some of the things that they did while they were there. Now remember, they had potentially the greatest, I mean, they could have had the greatest team of all time, TSM. But Reginald is such an egotistical child that he clashed with a guy called Freddie Biscoff. Now again, full disclosure, the reason I'm juiced in with the Danish scene, and always will be, is that back in the formative years of esports, I used to go to all the Danish lands, all the local lands. There was one called Slap. There used to be one called Blast, The Blast. That was the brand they bought to make it Blast. But it used to be local LAN events. I used to go to Copenhagen games. I knew all the guys that run all of the LANs. There used to be a LAN up in Jutland, which is where all the big Danish, like ex-Vikings, who've all now become farmers, live. I used to go up there, very hard to get to. You used to have to sleep in the LAN, you know, the warehouse, the gym, or whatever it was they hired, on a mattress. I used to go to all these LAN parties. I knew all the players before they were big. You'd probably find me interviewing them when they were young. People like Cage and B, people like Device, Dupree. You know, I've interviewed all of these guys. I've known them a long, long time. And the Danish scene was very, very active, and everybody knew everyone else, and it was really about fun. Yeah, you went to win, but you had a drink, you had a party, you had a good time. And so while I used to do the rounds and used to go to Denmark a lot and all the Danish lands, one of the guys I met was Freddie Biscoff, and you know, he used to be like an admin, used to be very instrumental in helping run lands. He was a problem fixer, you know, for a lot of events, and a guy behind the scenes, you know, done a bit of everything in his career. Now, in my time as a journalist, yeah, I've fucked with Freddie. Like, obviously, I've written negative stories about Stralis, written a bunch of negative stories, but he's one of those guys who gets the game. Like, this is the game. I have this code I must adhere to. But, fuck, man, I'm sure Batman's teamed up with a Joker at least once, right? Like, it just is what it is. I do what I do, you do what you do, but at the end of the day, unless you're unspeakably evil, we're like war veterans coming back from a war that's just not being fought anymore, and there's no need for hostilities, we can have a beer and we can talk about, you know, the good old days in the trenches, you know? And I've always had that approach to journalism. And Freddie Biscoff now, in his post-Astralis life, he's doing a bunch of startups. And, you know, I think he's formed like 4 companies since Astralis. He's like going to be very successful as an entrepreneur. I'm sure he's made a fortune. He's a super cool guy. And at the start, when he was the manager of this group of players, he was instrumental to what TSM, well, back when they were Team Question Mark, a lot of people thought they were going to get picked up by Team Secret because of that. I think they might even have had talks with Team Secret at that time. We were a very hot property. And this is back, obviously, when they had Carrigan as the IGL pre-Glaive. Anyway, they were hot property, and Freddie was so good at managing these guys, and they all trusted him. It was a package deal. And TSM, when they successfully bid for them and brought them in, they basically said, listen, the players, this is, Freddie comes with us. We don't want your manager. We don't want your coach. Freddie is with us. He's a package deal. We're all coming together. And TSM said, yeah, fine, of course, whatever we have to do to get you in. Freddie being Freddie, i.e. a competent person that knows the players and what they need, he continually, and I mean continually, would push back against the org some of their ideas. He would, he would push the org to give greater promotion to CSGO. And they basically rewarded Freddie for having the temerity to say, I think we need these things to succeed, by essentially firing him. In fact, let me just show you a report that I did at the time. See the headline there? This is Richard Lewis on the Bad website, right? With the headline, TSM's manager reportedly knew he would be fired before Counter-Strike Major. And this was going into the 2015 Cluj-Napoca Major, which I worked as a host. Basically, he was fired going in there, and the players were taking money out of their own salary to pay Freddie to work for them because they didn't think they could succeed without him. And you can see here, the official termination date for Biskov was October 20th. The players believed that Biskov was so vital to their success, they agreed to pay him a salary out of their own income in order to keep him on board. He now works as the team's agent. And that was obviously, they left TSM after that event. Now, I want you to imagine how much of a cunt organisation you have to be to essentially agree to take on a coach that was instrumental to the success of this team, so beloved by the players, like a pre-Zonic level figure he was with these guys, that they would pay him out of their own money just to keep him on because the org refused to pay him a salary. The org wanted to fire him. And that's what TSM did. TSM essentially abused this core of players and this coach. They mistreated them, and it was done over the flimsiest of reasons, which we're going to get to. But here was the main problem. All of this time, right, you've got this very successful team. TSM were right up there. They had a really good rivalry with Fnatic in 2015. If you go and look at the results, if you want to know more about that, go watch the Time Travel Land series on my YouTube channel. We talk about that a lot, how Fnatic had a bunch of good teams to sharpen their sword against. But TSM didn't give a fuck. It was all League of Legends for them. Whenever you went on their social media, put it this way, during this major, the Cluj-Napoca Major, when TSM had this run, they didn't post that the team was playing. They just didn't post. I remember being sat there in Cluj-Napoca going, like, look at TSM, haven't even tweeted about it to all their followers. They've got this, like, must-win game, like, coming up, and they just haven't even tweeted about it. It was fucking insane. They just didn't give a shit. It was crazy to me, but they didn't care. Anyway, we used to go and buy the numbers in 2015 in happier times. Me and Thorin were young, fresh-faced, still enjoyed esports. And we were talking about this, how little the org actually cared about the fact they had this great CSGO team because Reginald couldn't see the benefits of it. When we used to say, they never post, they don't care, they never post, they don't care. So Reginald came up with the idea of explaining why he fired Freddie. And he said it's because Freddie was meant to do the tweets. No shit. This is real. As always, with Reginald, was this in a professional statement? Was this done, like in a straight-to-camera serious? There's been some serious allegations here. No. He went on his fucking Reddit account, Reginald Bro, and clarified with one of his textbook clarifications, right? So, to correct you guys on this, I did not fire Frederick. The CSGO team wanted to go into an open market in order to get the best offers so we can match it. As of right now, most top CSGO players' teams are also shopping around for the best offers they can receive as well. I thought it would be unethical for Frederick to shop our existing team around while being employed by me because we're the ones paying him. At the start of our partnership, I gave the players a budget to hire any manager of their choosing to make their lives easier. Since they chose to bring on Frederick's loyalties remain with the players, even though I was the one paying him. When I found out he was planning on looking for other offers from other orgs, I sat him down to discuss the situation. I gave him the choice to either be our CSGO manager part-time, which will lead to a full-time position next year, or to leave and become a player agent. He chose to leave the organisation and become their agent. The players decided to pay his salary since they believe he will bring them better offers. So in other words, their contracts are expiring. They wanted more money because they've been successful. TSM didn't want to pay it. Freddie, in his role as manager, was saying, if we're not going to re-sign with TSM, I'll, listen to anyone that's making any offers. And Reginald took that personal. Then, this is the best bit. When we brought Frederick on, our two expectations were very clear. His job was to handle scheduling and social media. Frederick's main job was to make sure the players were happy. He's done that. And do social media. I provided him with sensitive information, all the social media access to Twitter and Facebook, and a company card for player expenses. At any time, the players could have had him generate more social posts. During this time, we, TSM, also requested on multiple occasions he should be more active on social media. When I asked Frederick to be more active, it didn't happen. When we picked up our CSGO team, we paid more than double, triple their previous pay, covered for all their travel expenses, standard, and paid premiums in order to get them hotels that were closer to venues, standard and in your interests. They preferred to operate autonomously, and I chose to honour their decision. Instead of hiring someone that would work for me, the players preferred that I gave them budget to hire someone that they would trust to fulfill the duties that I expect. I do not handle social media for TSM personally. Lena does. That's Lena, the very competent vice president of operations, formerly of TSM now. She's at Sentinels now, I think, as a chief financial officer or something. I don't know. It's esports. You fail upwards. It's great. Not me, though. Of course, no. Never me. Anyway, Lena does. For each gaming manager that we hire, their job is to handle social media for the specific game. This is evident in the social media promotions when we first picked up the CSGO team, blah, 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 blah. And then he gives example of tweets, supposedly from the managers. Now, I don't know. To me, if I'm, busy at an event, managing the team, and I can tell you, for example, a lot of the events we were going to in 2015, there was a lot of stuff that would, from a talent perspective, it was bad. But from player perspectives, it was really bad. This is 2015 esports, kids. I don't know what to tell you. Listen, it wasn't as bad as 2005 esports, but it wasn't anywhere near where we're at in 2022, and 2022 still fucking sucks ass, right? So 2015 esports, players didn't have practice rooms. You had to get that organized, where if generally the expectation was you would practice at the venue a lot of the time, but if the venue was miles away and you had to get a shuttle from there, when do you practice? Can you even practice, A lot of the competitive games were the practice. Not to mention hotel conditions, not to mention food quality, stuff you needed just to be successful at an event, all sorts of crazy shit. I remember one event, I can't even remember which event it was. There was literally one event I went to, and there was a construction site, right? So we got told, you're going to be staying in this opulent hotel. You get there, right? It was like that fucking horror story you hear on Brits Abroad. You know what I mean? It's one of them. And when I fucking got there, the pool wasn't even built. What's all this? Costa del bullshit. That's what I say. It was like that, right? And obviously, the problem you had was the construction was going on because, the country we were in, not a respecter of sound laws, it seemed. You would have a pneumatic drill still going at midnight, and they would get started again at 6 a.m. So you had this 6-hour window of please, God, let me sleep, please. And, we were doing that on a broadcast, right? So, we had 7 a.m., 8 a.m. call times. You would get in the chair and the makeup artist would be like, oh, you've got bags under your eyes. Yeah, I wonder why. You try not to snap, I never did that. I'm not a diva. Some did. Imagine being a player, and you've got to go and play the biggest game of your life up until that point. You've had no sleep because you're being kept up by a construction. So there was all this stuff. And all I'm saying is, if I'm a manager and I'm trying to run around and put out fires, and I've been a player manager and I've been a player coach back in Source, let me tell you, there isn't time to say, and now I will put out a tweet and a little Periscope video and, hey guys, do you want to do an AMA? Dude, there's none in 2015. You ain't about that life. And Freddie's a fucking expert, you know, and knows what the players want. So for me, this is just me, if I'm a super ultra professional org and I've got one of the best teams and a great coach and he's doing right by the players and everyone's happy, even if it's an unconventional setup, for me, I'm just like, okay, he's not tweeting. We got people for that. But obviously, Reginald is dating Lena at this time. Woe betide it should fall on her. You see, it's weird that, isn't it? It's weird. It's weird how, you know, dating employees leads to strange things at companies. Although I did see Bill Maher on his show say we should stop worrying about that. Interesting. But whatever. He basically threw Freddie under the bus. And Freddie did reply, and I'll read you the reply. And then we can all decide who we believe. This is now deleted, so I had to get it off an archive. I want to clarify a few things after Reggie posted a comment about me on Reddit, which is far from true. Reginald, lying, everyone. I'm shocked. I know, you're shocked too, right? I wasn't hired to do social media. And why would he be? And also, there's like a contradiction in Reginald's own story, because he said he didn't work for us. Why would you give him the logins to the socials then? Bit fucking dangerous, isn't it? Giving an external source all these like powers and he's going to tweet. Doesn't make sense. You wouldn't do that. Whatever. I wasn't hired to do social media on the TSM CSGO team or for the organization. I was hired as a consultant to do what I do. I manage the team and all their activities. And he says, for evidence, here's my agreement. And he even posted the agreement. Engagement of services. Consultant agrees to perform services for company pursuant to this section, the services. Contractor will determine the method, details and means of performing the services consistent with this agreement. The services include traveling with the team to tournaments and making all related travel arrangements for the players and manager, organizing competitive practices and gaming scrimmages with other esports teams to help prepare the team for tournaments, working with tournament organizers to ensure the tournament facilities are appropriately set up in a suitable manner consistent with past tournaments and competitions, arranging and facilitating all team meals and procuring snacks and drinks to ensure that all players have a sufficient amount of food. Yes, Freddie was even the fucking chef. Right? Communicating with team sponsors to elicit input from such sponsors regarding team sponsorship duties to ensure sponsors provide all goods and services they are obligated to provide general logistical support to the team, supporting certain other player or team activities at the request of the team or the company. So not a single mention of social media in the contract he signed. So this is Reginald, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Even when he's caught bang to rights, just lie. Why not? Why not just lie? Hey, look, I'm on Reddit. Reginald, bro. I'm a bro. I'm a fucking bro. Just believe me. I've got bro in my name. How can I lie? I'm a fucking bro. You're a bro. We're all bros, right? That's his mindset. So he then goes on to say, I wasn't fired from TSM. That is correct. We mutually agreed to part ways. TSM and I, after Andy and I had a chat, he wanted me to work for the organisation and take care of their needs instead of working together with the players. See, I've been working for the team for the last 6 months and not the organisation, which includes the following: all sponsor activities, planning events, booking all their travel, talking with all the other managers from other top teams, planning events with organisers, scheduling practice and official games in several online leagues at the same time. And all of the above is more than a full-time job if you're working within a top-tier team, which I am. The listed items is working for the organisation as well. I've been the one making sure the players did interviews, did PR at events, showed up at signing sessions and so on. All things that relate to the organisation and benefits their brand. Now, I will tell you, by the way, when you see like an agent at an event who like represents a talent, they represent one talent and they are like a blue-arsed fly just buzzing around. It's so hard. You got to get them here, get them there. You got a 2 o'clock, you got a 2:30. We need to get you here, we need to get you there. You got a photo shoot here, you got to do a public appearance here, and then we got to get to the airport for 6. And it's just, now imagine doing that for 5 people. Right? So Reginald's like, oh, he should have been tweeting too, even though it wasn't in his agreement. Like, fuck you. Maybe get an intern to do that, eh? I'm running your fucking super successful international team. Can someone else just tweet that we're playing now? We're live, you know? But no, it's TSM. They never gave a fuck about CSGO. And as I said, they completely fucking wasted the opportunity they had because of Reginald's petulance. For all of the above, I was paid a lousy salary where I came from. It was $1,900. That's a month. In Denmark, we have to pay high taxes, which means I, each month, earned around $1,100 for working full-time. That's about $6.50 an hour. Minimum salary in Denmark is $11 after taxes. So, one of the most successful League of Legends orgs, an org, by the way, that was like, even back in 2015, was being like evaluated by Forbes on their bullshit list as one of the most lucrative. They fucking bilked this guy so bad. Can you even imagine, like, right? Can you even imagine? You're an elite level coach managing one of the most successful teams in World Counter-Strike, and you'd be better off in fucking McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck these people. Anyway, he talks about his trial period. There's not like a lot there. He says, it's no secret that Andy and I haven't been the perfect match. He works on a background from League of Legends and I from Counter-Strike. These are two very different games when it comes to management. A LoL team plays one league with a fixed schedule for months. A CS team has to adapt on a day-to-day basis, which requires several hours a day. So, again, between the lines, he was pushing back against Reginald. You don't do that in TSM, or you didn't back then. And so they basically fucked him over. They completely fucked him over. Imagine underpaying him all those months and then saying, right, do you want to come into the org full time next year? They're like, no, no, I don't. In fact, I don't want to be here at all. And in fact, I think I'll go get my boys paid somewhere else. And he's such a legend that there were a lot of big offers coming in. A lot of them were contingent on some weird stuff, if I remember rightly. In the end, he made his own org. Secured funding, made his own org. That org went on to be one of the most successful, the most successful in CSGO history. That's just balling out of control. So listen, me and Freddie might have little barbs at each other. You know, he was involved in Blast and some other stuff. That's just that. But game, respect game, right? And what I don't respect is TSM. Eat my ass with a spoon. Anybody that's welcoming them coming back into fucking CS needs their head examined. You don't know your history. They mismanaged one of the greatest teams of all time. They treated one of the nicest dudes, one of the best coaches of all time, with just massive disrespect, all the while underpaying him while they were creaming in that money off League of Legends, and now they've come crawling back because they couldn't get into Valorant and they just need someone to do with, in an FPS. Fuck them. Not welcome, in my opinion.